Pretty good smelling person most of the time, I think. Probably better smelling than you. I shower more than you.
I showered today.
That's more than I can say, but...
I remember. Do you remember when we saw Shrek 4D? We saw Shrek 4D in
We saw it twice.
You weren't there.
No, I don't think I've ever seen Shrek 4D.
Oh no, the next one was Kung Fu Panda, but Shrek was there.
Yeah.
It was a double feature?
No, it was because you go into the
Years
lobby.
ago we saw Shrek 4D, and then when we were there last summer,
there was the lobby and all famous DreamWorks guys just trying to show up on the screen and be like, "Hey, we're about to watch this movie," and then the doors would magically open and you go in and it's this 4D adventure. It's very wet. Universal needs to figure out their mist spritzers, because you're at Disney and you're kind of going around and there's a mist and it's it's wow, that was the nice mist, but then you go to Universal and it's
just people
you're just
spitting on you.
Yeah,
from
you're
the
just
rafters.
getting hit by droplets every time at Universal, always. And it was a problem. I only had at Universal because I was trying to wear my glasses so I could see everything, all these nice views, and then all of a it would just be drops on my glasses. At Disney, it would be if I sprayed it with a glasses cleaner and I could just wipe it off. But at Universal, it's
you can wipe it off either way.
It's just a lot more annoying. The Universal water is just dirty.
Well, anyways.
Filled with lead.
Oh my god. Gotta kill you. Well, welcome to Unorganized Thought, the podcast where I use my hands a lot.
I'm not adding that in.
Oh, you're not adding me any lightning?
I can't do it forwards, I don't think.
Hey! Can you do that?
Yes. Podcasts are already just so
cut.
long to air.
We'll see. Anyways.
I won't even be here. You have to do it.
Oh, man. I'm creating work for myself. Okay. So, no more effects. Nobody do anything else other
We
than
need a
name
lot
tags.
of gun shots and artillery effects for this
Yeah.
video.
No. But I guess the last effects I want to do are name tags.
Right.
I am Aidan.
I'm Kieran.
I'm Teagan. That's my name.
Hooray. Name tags. Awesome. Yeah.
I just don't remember the last time we did name tags. It's probably the last time we filmed, but
Yeah, that'd be the time. Teagan mentioned that we would be doing effects with artillery and gunshots.
Yes.
And that is because we're going to be talking about the movie 1917.
The award-winning movie.
Yeah.
Yes, what award did it win again?
Lots of awards.
Cinematography, I know.
Cinematography,
Yeah.
for
Right.
sure.
Yeah, well
A
deserved.
couple other ones.
Yeah. And so we saw this movie a few weeks ago.
Music, I think, too.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, the soundtrack was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I downloaded it the day I saw it.
There you go.
That's what you...
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, it was a really, really
Very
impressive
terrific
film.
movie. Yeah, very amazing.
And, we're a little bit late with our
Yeah,
podcast on it, but, it got a lot of praise at the Academy Awards, and so, slotted in there. It's a good thing to talk about anytime.
Definitely, yeah. I saw it on my birthday. My dad took me to see it, and I was kind of going into it because I'm very versed in military history and especially the First World War, and so I was going into it kind of skeptical of the thing about it being. I was such a snob. I was just oh, but they had ways to message 1,600 men.
Yeah.
They would have had lines and message birds and I was it just doesn't add up. And then, but I was going into the movie like that. But as soon as I watched the film, that was just the furthest thing from my mind because it was such an amazing movie in every way. So
yeah, I when I don't know a half an hour before we went and saw it, my dad was like, "Oh yeah, it's supposed to be a one shot."
I had
and
no clue about it. Yeah,
what?
he just goes, "It's supposed to be one shot."
Yeah.
It's the whole time. I'm like, he can't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
There's no way. And then we went and it was, and I was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah.
How has
That
no
was
one
really
done
crazy.
this?
Yeah, and so that's kind of just I have on my notes here. the one shot and then notes about it.
It covers a lot.
Like we could just kind of go through a few of those.
The whole movie.
Get
some might say.
Yeah, we could get some.
It's a very like ballsy move.
Yeah.
To I would not want to be a director or like some sort of movie guy and be like, the guy comes in like a month before we're shooting and like, hey, we're gonna be making this one shot. Yeah. I'd be like, oh god.
I wouldn't want to be an actor for that. Like the pressure is on.
Well, I watched some behind the scenes of it, and the guy, like the main dude in it, I forget his name. He was talking about how he's like they had to just map out every single shot and like sort of plan it, you know. And like there's so many like things in the movie that are that they didn't plan for, like I'm assuming spoiler alert.
I was about to say this will be just spoilers.
But like this won't spoil anything. But like it's the ending shot, kind of like the famous one when he's running kind of like along the trench, and there's all those men.
When the army's going forward and he's going sideways.
Yeah. So I think 2 or 3 times he knocks into people that are going the other way. He's like that was totally not planned, that just happened. And I was like, that's so cool, because like imagine filming that, like, oh no, like he ran to a stupid extra, and then like they would be like, oh, we'll just leave it in because it looks great and it's realistic.
Well, because that was one thing we talked about that after the movie, and we're like, that I like that a lot, where he was just going in and then the guys would go down.
He went down hard. He's
that makes total sense, because it seems so real, because it's just boom, and they both fall, and he also really staggers to his feet.
Something that I noted in that scene is that the camera stayed consistent. So if he hit a guy and went down, the camera went away from him, and he had to catch up and keep in frame. And I thought that was super cool.
One other thing I wanted to say before we get to your points is, once again, like I'm a huge fan of like the history as well as movies. That I was very happy with is, there's not a lot of World War I like media ever. Video games, like movies obviously and stuff. Like you get both. You rarely, but like when you do get them, they're usually like Battlefield 1 as an example. They put that game out, and I played the campaign, and it was the most horrendous, like offensive thing I've ever seen to history. It was just like, what? And like there's the guns in it are not accurate either. So like I was like, that's whatever. But like this is an accurate World War I movie. Like the scene when they're like going through like no man's land. Yeah. It's a very like accurate, vivid description of like, this was like hell. It was not like it's not like they didn't dramatize it. They're not like, this is a fun movie. It's like, this is what World War I was. It was just like endless death for 4 years straight.
And I was
so happy with that.
I liked the inclusion of like, this is just what it was. They threw a lot of the just like unpredictability of it. Yeah,
completely.
Where like, we're going through, this might happen. A rat sets off off a tripwire that almost kills us, and like a plane gets shot at the sky and comes exactly where we are. Like, you just like can't plan for these things, you know. Yeah. And like,
well, the death of the one guy though, like that totally caught me off guard. I was like, these two are definitely gonna be. This is gonna be the journey together, right?
And then like,
then he gets. Yeah, and I was like, no, like no, don't. But he dies, you know.
And
like,
see, what I was about to say is that they prime you for that, because right off the bat, as soon as like right out of the gate, they're going through, and he's opening the barbed wire, and he cuts his hand open, and then 3 seconds later, they're walking, and his hand goes in the guy, and it's like, me and Aidan in the theater, totally I look at him and I go, he's dead now, because like infection. He had his cut, he's dead. And so I think everyone's thinking that now, and then they keep going. The trip mine goes off. Yeah. He's crushed under all these things, and so then you're like,
he's done.
Well, this guy's done.
Schofield is gone.
Yeah, you're like, this guy's done, and it's like,
and it was the other guy's brother
that we're going for, and so he's obviously gonna make it through, and then he gets shanked, and then oh man, there's just like, they primed you for it to be, if someone's gonna die, Schofield's gonna die.
Yeah.
But then they switched it, and it was a very good. Subversion.
Once again though, like that's so accurate. It's not like any of these guys were like, I'm gonna make it through. It's like like the chance, I think the chance, it was like 1 in 10 men it's like we're dying, and people just dying every day. It's like not a pretty place to be in history.
Exactly.
You know, and they did a very good job of capturing that. There was no romance stupid subplot with like there's like the lady in it, but like there's just nothing dumb in the movie. I thought it was very, very well done. I was very happy with it. And it is a movie you should only see in theaters, unfortunately. It's one of those, because like we saw it in theaters, and like I had like by the end I was like, my ears like almost hurt because it was so loud. We saw it in IMAX, you know, and just like, and I was like, it just will not be the same experience if you're watching it at home on a DVD. It'll still be great, but like to get like the artillery and the explosions and everything, it's so good.
Yeah, I definitely think it would be to experience it in that setting.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Well, yeah, and I don't know, I don't want to jump too far forward, but this was something that we said, and I don't want to keep stealing your note topics, but like this movie, like I don't know if I've even said this on the podcast before, but as far people always kind of go on about how like, oh, you got to see this was an experience. But like this movie of all things, I feel like was an experience because you go through it, and due to the one shot, due to the way they do it, you are in it the whole time. You're with these two guys. You can recall the full journey. This is something that you said, Aidan, is that you know every place that they went where we walked through on this adventure.
Yeah, exactly.
And so like it's very much you're there, you know, and they do it very well by keeping you in the moment with the one shot.
Yeah, and that was my first point here, was that's what the one shot does, is you walk this whole path with them. So like you said, well, like I said, you said, or you said I said, it's really kind of surreal to like think back and be like, oh yeah, we came from the trenches and then we were at the orchard. And then we crossed the river and like all of these things, like No Man's Land to the bunker to these places. Like you can see the landscape in your mind. Like you can see from an aerial view, like what that path looked like. And so that was very immersive and very authentic to kind of have no cuts, to be with them the whole time. And what was I just gonna say? Just understanding how the sets work. I would be really curious about that, because a lot of it was outside, or at least seemingly outside. It was all outside, yeah. And so for that whole first part, going from them sleeping on the trees to entering into
No Man's Land,
into the bunker where they talk to Colin Firth or whatever, talked to where they first got their mission. I was watching because there's actually tricks that if you have like watched a video on it or studied some filmmaking, there are tricks that you can tell where they hide their cuts. Yeah. And I saw the first one was like maybe like 5 or 7 minutes in. It was when they were leaving that bunker. Oh, yeah. And they went close in on his backpack, so it was black for 1 second, and then they were coming out. So that whole time,
I think that was Hitchcock who coined the behind the back, because I forget what movie it's in, but he does behind the back. That's when they would cut it, and then they would refilm going that way. Yeah. It's so smart.
Yeah, it's so cool. And so from the tree down into the trenches into that control room, that was all one. And then from there pretty much all the way into No Man's Land, I didn't see another cut until they went into the second bunker. And so, you know, having those enormous sets, and even if there was a cut between down in the trenches and going across No Man's Land, that No Man's Land set, like, oh my god, that's just a huge expanse, you know? Like,
and that was what another thing that was like very realistic, because that's what Bodhi said to me. He's like, I didn't realize like No Man's Land, because it's usually like something that's wrong within, like, once again, video games and movies about the First World War. It's like, all right, well, the bad guys are here, green guy, like the good guys, the allies were here, and that was it, right? And they're shooting back and forth constantly, but like really it's like it was a humongous area of space. And then same with the trenches too, because it's like it's very, I found it's like they were spot on with how like it's confusing. Like I don't know if you when you noticed when you were watching, but it's like you feel lost right in the trenches. It's like, because realistically it was like frontline trench, it would go back into like channels of like a support trench, and that would go on for like for so far, and same with the German ones. So it's just like, once again, just so historically accurate, and an emotional ride, like from when he gets shot in the helmet or whatever and he falls down. That scared the crap out of me there. And like the that
was probably the biggest cut in the whole thing.
Where it actually just went black for a second.
And when he finds that baby, oh my god, like that was horrible, heart-wrenching. And then the part I always sticks out in my mind right around the end is when he's in like the chalk trench and he's he's trying to find whatever the Cumberbatch character, I forget his name, but trying to find him, and he's like talking to people like where's he, blah, 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 and he goes up to the one guy and he's crying. And I'm like, that I'm sure is so realistic, because like it would have just been like just disaster scene, like what is going on, like just describes the war perfectly, and that's why it would be such a good film to like, because I went into it, I was like, this is not a film that is going to be historically accurate. It's like, if I was going to show a film to somebody who's like World War I would show them this one now, but like, because a lot of people can't stand like, documentaries and stuff, because it's just so bland, but this now I can actually say is such a good piece to provide to people for a historical movie, legitimately.
Definitely. A few other things about the one shot is that I think Kieran, you said this initially, was that they really control what you see and kind of restrict what you see by always having the camera rolling. Because with cuts, you can really kind of pace it with, like, you cut it and then there's an ominous music and then you cut over to the thing. But with this, like, you take the we should have remembered their names before the end, because it was Schofield and
I don't even remember the
other guy. But when it was the younger brother's death, he's like, go get some water. You tracks Schofield, and he's just pumping the water, and then all of a sudden you just hear screaming.
No.
And Schofield turns around, and then we turn around, so we get the exact same feel. And the same reaction
even
as
after
he did.
him.
Yeah, even after.
And that was the thing, is like the way they did that in scenes like that, or they did it in a way where it restricts you so much, and that you don't see what they see
Blake.
until they see it, or even after they see it.
Yeah, so like, you see Schofield go, pull his gun out, you turn around, and he's pulling the knife out, and it's oh my god, like, and that was really effective, because you turn around and like, it's just out of nowhere. All of a sudden, your friend is dead.
It's that
and
anticipation.
It's just, what?
Where
you don't see this big dramatic stab. He just turns around, he's pulling his gun out, and the knife is coming out. And it's like...
And then like, they leave him there. It's like, and that would happen every day in the war. Like, there's like, we could bury him, and I'm sure they end up doing that, but it's like, what, are you going to carry him the whole way?
Well, and see, that was the thing, is that I really liked about that scene, too, is he's trying to take him, and then you see that he's trying to take him back to the orchard that he really liked. He was talking about how my mom had these trees, and so he's trying to lift him. Those other guys help start lifting him, and then you kind of have that moment where it's like, we're not going to make it there, so we'll just kind of prop him up so you can see it. But that was good.
That was another real sad scene.
And then another time when they were kind of restricting is like right before they went into no man's land, or once they were out and they were coming up this ridge, and they did it there, and I think they did it again when they were going into the German trench, because they set it up so much. They're like, we don't actually know if the Germans are gone. We could just be walking into their trench fully. They're just all still there. And so the way they did it is they had the camera below them, and since you're going up this incline, they didn't turn the camera with them. They kept it angled so that you still see the ridge, but you see them going up and you see the sky. And so then once they see what's there, you still don't quite see yet. And so then they turn it after these guys know what's going on.
And that was another thing, like, that was a real plan that the Germans actually executed. I think it was called Operation, like, Albrecht or something like that, where they did withdraw because at the end of the war they were doing so poorly. They pulled other troops back and then let them kind of walk into the trap. And the other thing too I learned about it is so I think it's April 6, 1917. It starts out with that shot, right? It says.
I think so.
So that's a historically like significant date, because that's the day that the United States entered the First World War, which I thought was just interesting.
Interesting.
That
is just kind of cool.
And then just before we switch the topics again, is just kind of a weird segue that doesn't mean a whole lot to the audience, but it's just kind of the way they do that anticipation thing where they see it and then we see it, is it builds it up for the tension for you. And we were just talking about The Shining beforehand, and that's a movie that they do that in, where you're following Danny on the tricycle. He rounds the corner, sees something, and then we follow in. We see
two girls.
And they do that a lot where it's the mom, or if it's Danny, where you see their reaction and then you see what they're looking at, where you see she hugs him, looks in the mirror, is super scared, then you see red rum on the door.
Yeah.
And so, like, it was just kind of a chain in my mind where it's linked in that sense.
That is cool. And one other thing that I mentioned in passing is just that I thought would be cool to mention is what are some of those tricks that that they use to make it look like a one-shot. The one that we mentioned was an object obscures the camera, and so in the first one I noticed was they were climbing out of that kind of command center little bunker, and the camera goes real close in on his backpack or his back, and then he comes out, and then that's where they would cut it, because as long as the camera goes black, for as long as the lens is covered for even 1 second, they can cut, and that's a completely new shot. Another one they can do that's similar to that is an object kind of just passing the camera, and so I noticed one when he climbed out of the river after he jumped and like climbed over dead bodies and stuff.
That was
he
horrific.
The camera passed. He was on one side of a tree and the camera was on the other.
Or was there a couple?
And
trees?
it came past it.
Yeah.
And I'm fairly certain that there was one there where they line it up perfectly so that they can cut and have a break, you know, so it's not just one guy acting out for like an hour or two. And then there's also whip pan, which is you move the camera so fast that it blurs.
Oh, okay, right.
I don't know that there was a bunch of those in this movie, though.
I think there was a couple. There was a couple. I think there actually was maybe one when Schofield saw Blake get stabbed.
Okay, maybe,
because it all just happened so fast that I don't remember fully, because you see him, he pulls out his gun, and then it turns around.
Well,
I don't know if it
would
was
make
fast.
sense where it would make sense like logistically as to why they would cut there. It's because it's like they're going from a totally like different like scenes from like they're both doing fine to this is literally where the character's leaving.
And that was one thing is that
and he became more and more pale
for
that scene,
which
and I wondered how
they must have done CGI for that. Because like
it could have been lighting too, honestly. If they put makeup on you and then I don't know how I'm not gonna pretend I know how to do it.
Sure. But yeah, that's another one is that like you're tracking something and then you whip.
Yeah.
And that's the end of that one, and then you begin the next one with a whip onto the new subject. And so those are just a few things that if you go back rewatching it, that's something I went into it looking for, and so it was just kind of interesting.
Looking for, but aware of.
Well, I mean, I was looking for it just for fun, you know. That's just something that you can kind of look out for.
Yeah, I was just kind of aware of it, and like kind of. No, I wasn't looking for it as much as you, and so like I wasn't taking note of all of them, but it was like when they would do one of the things, I would be able to go, well, that's probably where they were cutting and why they were doing that.
For sure. Yeah.
I like your note about incredibly subversive, because like this is definitely one of the most subversive films I've seen in probably years that I can think of off the top of my head. Like from front to back, I was like in this movie like just pulled in 100%. And like as David Lynch would say, like this is not a movie, I said this before, like do not watch this movie on your phone. Like do not buy it on Apple and watch it on your phone. Like it needs to be loud, it needs to be big. But like you're with this whole film from front to back, and I think once again it just provides such a perfect description of the First World War, because he does complete his mission and he like almost dies so many times.
Just the determination.
Oh, the determination. And so he finishes it, and then he's kind of just dazed after, and he does solve it, right? But then he finds his Blake's brother and gives him the news, and then that's also just a horrible, devastating scene right at the end of the movie. Then he just sits by the tree and it sort of closes, right? And I was like, nothing is solved. Like millions of people are still dead. People in the operation still die. Like a lot of these guys
didn't even save everyone.
No, definitely not.
Like, and that was so awful. He's running and the first wave goes over and it's like, no.
100%. And so that's a perfect metaphor for, not a metaphor, but like for what the First World War was. Like 20 million people just died, and it's like for any good reason, you know, we could talk about it forever. Like, I thought that was a very like almost like perfect just like ending, and because like nothing is solved, you know, war doesn't really solve anything.
Exactly.
And 20 years later they did it again, you know.
So and I think with
something else about that is that it opens with Schofield asleep against a tree, and then it ends with him leaning back.
Yeah, I love that too.
I didn't even think about that, but it's
I just thought it was...
You made the connection for me.
Because he says, doesn't he tell him to pick a man?
Yeah.
And then he picks Schofield.
And he just goes, hey.
Yeah. I imagine being that guy's friend.
And then he brings that up. He's like, why did you have to pick me?
After the tripwire.
Yeah.
Because he goes, you could have picked anyone, and you picked me, you know? And he's like, well, I just thought we were going to have to do some trivial task. You know?
Yeah.
It wasn't going to be the end of the world.
Yeah, I thought we were just going to go get rations from...
Yeah. Exactly.
Or like do some like reconnaissance, like go stand in no man's land and see what the Germans are up to. Yeah, take some pictures.
And then what I was going to say is just kind of with your, like, the way it sucks you in is it just is very... what's the word? I've been thinking it the entire podcast. Captivating and just like tense.
Beyond
intense. Just like the tension the whole time is just like
oh my god.
And
I bet that's what it would have been like to be in the trenches, standing there being like,
exactly.
That's why when that guy was crying, I was like, that would have been me. Like, imagine like nowadays, it's like, imagine like have a job, you're going to work. And you can die at work, first of all. Think about that. And then secondly, like, imagine getting a job and being like, oh, I have to go work in France for no amount, like, the war could go on for no amount of time. You know, like, there's no end to this that we know of yet. Like, to me, these are all things like, nope, I'm not going to do that job. But, like, they just had to. These generation of men just had to do it, you know?
Exactly. And, yeah, just kind of going back to that subversive thing.
Yeah,
it's
and
just
it's a very dangerous term
because
to use nowadays.
It seems like more and more films are using sort of this undeserved subversiveness where they kind of throw you for a loop, but without kind of setting it up.
Do something unexpected just to be unexpected.
Yeah,
whereas they don't set it up. They don't do these things. And they just do it to try and give you a cheap thrill and be like, wow, that I didn't expect that.
And this is almost in sort of a league of its own because this is about a world war, about this situation where anything can happen. It's almost, you know, it doesn't abide by the same rules of a movie
part of
story.
That realism, basically.
Exactly. It's kind of that realism. And, you know, in movies that that are in like a fantasy world or like a space opera, you know, like I kind of want them to follow a content sort of a story, and you know that's just me.
Yeah.
But I want them to follow, you know, what is comfortable and satisfying. With this, that wasn't an option in real life, so why should that be an option in this faithful retelling of it? You know, like. You think this whole time it starts with Blake and it's Blake's brother and Blake convinces Schofield to keep going after Schofield is getting his butt kicked within the first 3
10
seconds.
minutes.
And then all of a sudden Schofield turns around and Blake is stabbed and he does everything he can to try and get him up and you're hoping that he's going to get up and that he's going to be able to carry him somehow.
Just
and
get
then
him
you just
to a medical,
slowly like
you know?
lose hope and it's just so awful and that's just like and it works for this movie because that's the environment that they're trying to create 100%. And that's the environment that existed.
Well, and like, because
sorry, you go.
Just with that is like to make a satisfying twist or subversion in most movies, you have to set it up. Otherwise, it's going to be terrible. Whereas this one, since it's real life, it's in a war.
Yeah.
You can't set up Blake getting stabbed. The most that they could set it up was priming you to think that it's going to be Schofield, and then it's him. And so that, in a sense, was setting it up, and so it's not out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's basically what you were saying. It's unpredictable, you know?
Yeah. And I think if they would have tried to do, like, anything that wasn't in that vein, like I said, like, if they did try to put some stupid romance subplot into it, or, like, it would have just wrecked it. I think it would have. I think people who aren't even into like the realistic history of it as much. I think that they would have just. It would have been a very like sore thumb sticking out just like that. You know.
It would just would have taken away.
Yeah.
You know? Like I think that's a very. It's a pretty easy thing to say with this movie is that it's just. It feels like everything they did in the movie was there for a reason. Yeah. You know, like. If you take this out, that doesn't work later. If you put something else in here, it doesn't really make sense, you know? Like, it pretty well encompassed film where, like, there's not a whole lot of, there's not really filler, you know?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Just, kind of another point here is just, that the characters feel so like in depth.
Yeah.
And very real, just kind of realistic, even with just kind of side characters. Like, they go to the other, you know, to where they're going to cross no man's land.
Yeah.
And there's the one just
officer.
Disgruntled officer.
Yeah. I really
who's just
like those guys.
Hey,
Yeah.
settle a bet, what day is it? And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, this idiot thought it was Tuesday.
Yeah.
And he's just like,
they just don't know what's going on.
He's so broken at that point, and yet still finding just kind of these bits of humor and just like not caring.
Yeah.
And like that guy was like, the things he said were funny,
Yeah.
but in a very specific,
Dark
dark
humor.
kind of a way. And it was just like,
If
this
you
is,
can,
like,
you can chuck this flare gun
if you can,
back.
if you can throw it back, if you get shot, we'd really appreciate it,
Yeah.
because I hate losing them.
Yeah.
And like, kind of another really cool thing just in that scene is that like, the weird sort of landmarks that they use. They're like, once you get to the dead horse, there's a gap or whatever, and it's like,
and he says these things, and you're like, what? How would they know what to look for? But then you're going
they've been
through
fighting there for 3 years.
Yeah. But then like, so he's telling these guys like, you're looking for this, and then you do this, and so as the audience, you're like,
I'm just like,
I don't know
would
what's
not
going on.
remember that.
But then you're going through and you go, well, there's that and there's that,
Yeah.
and I now understand what he was saying.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go at the guy that's slumped over, and then
Yeah.
you go and you see the guy like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
that was definitely really cool.
This is gonna like, once again, like, huge like history nerd out, but I wanted to like, I almost wanted to like stay. I wanted it to be in the theater with like me with a remote. Because I wanted to be able
so
to,
you could
when
analyze.
I just wanted to pause, because the costumes in this movie, like, I don't even want to call them costumes, because I'm pretty sure they were real uniforms.
Yeah.
But or obviously they were real uniforms, but I don't think they were from back then. But like, they were spot on, like,
Nice.
guns, clothes, helmets, like everything. I'm like, you're going through you spend a lot of time in the trenches in the movie, just going straight through. You, like, once again, you don't go back, so you're not. But I just wanted to pause and like look at the dugouts and like look at the, because it was 100% just like realistic.
Yeah,
you know?
and that was one thing at
That's
the
one thing
Oscars, because I was like, they didn't win for costumes.
Yeah.
And so I was like, that's one that definitely could, and it would be up there. But then I think like Little Women won or something. And I mean, I do respect that. Like, they had to make these beautiful dresses.
And that's sort of
that
just the only different consideration is that these things existed
Yeah.
and like there are pictures that you can meticulously recreate, whereas you know, with Little Women, that comes straight from the brain, and they have to create these elegant,
that's
super
fine.
elegant dresses,
it's like
but
they had the
real
blueprints
for it,
so they don't win them, which is fair, but
still
But
to
I
recreate it so
And I
masterfully and
do
so
think that-
accurately, that's still definitely a huge commendation.
Yeah, and just like it, they also all had like, because I've seen movies where it's like, you can like, there's a Canadian World War I movie called Passchendaele, and it's like, it's a great movie, but it's a lower budget, obviously it's Canadian, so it's like they're all kind of just wearing like the soldier outfit. But in this movie, you see that, you get reminded that like, yeah, these are individuals. Each one of these men, even though they were in this horrible situation where they could be just killed at any second, it's like they were still individuals. So they would each dress like differently. They all would put on different kind of jacket. They would make their own stuff in the trenches, from like weird coats to like stuff with like weird like sheep fur almost on stuff like that. And you would see all that in the movie, you know. And I love that kind of stuff. It's what I really want to see.
Yeah.
And I finally got it, because it's been I don't know, I can't think of another World War I movie that would just perfectly encapture it.
Yeah.
I really can't.
Yeah. And that was one thing that I was unsure about.
Yeah.
I'm not as into
versed.
versed in the history as you are.
I'm way more than I would like to be, because it's dark, man. It's dark. Like World War I especially, it's no worse than, or it's worse. There's no point in arguing, but like World War I or II, right? But like, just a horrible time.
Yeah.
If you didn't know,
that's really.
not a good time.
I'm glad that we have you on
Yeah,
for this one,
yeah.
because that's a perspective that I think that we really needed. Just kind of one thing I kind of wanted to focus on a little bit, and we're about halfway, a little over.
We were about
halfway.
half an hour.
And so just that kind of the journey and just kind of will and character of Schofield, because he starts as just this guy who's like, all right, here we go. You know, they set up this kind of story with his medal, how he just traded it with a Frenchman for some wine or something.
Right, yeah.
How he just like, his heart was never really like fully in this conflict. Like, he was just there doing his duty.
Yeah.
And, like, right before they go up to the orchard, they kind of exchange that story. And Schofield is, like, talking about how it's like, what does it matter? It's a piece of tin, you know, with a and what does that amount to at all? And then, you know, his friend dies in his arms, and despite his sort of indifference to this cause and no real passion in this conflict, he just keeps going.
Yeah.
And he's just driven by this, you know, need and this sort of internalized grief of his dead friend that he needs to find this guy's brother.
And it was that big time, but then it was also just this thing where if he doesn't make it, everybody's gonna die, you know? And so, like, and I was kind of thinking that right now is just, like, you see him going through these conflicts, these gunfights, and it's like, it's almost this kind of like, it's this selflessness where he's now put himself secondary because it doesn't matter if I die, you know, like, I have to go through these things because if, like, I'm one guy versus this entire army, you know, like.
I think another, like, perfect sentiment of this is, it's right around that scene. I think it might be the same scene when he's talking about giving away the medal, is when he talks about going on leave and going home.
Yeah.
And he says he hated it because he knew that he'd have to go back to what the First World War was, and he's like, how could you go home and enjoy? And it reminds me a lot of stuff that people who've actually talked about veterans of the First World War who would say that. But there's another World War I movie called All Quiet on the Western Front, and it's based off a book. But the same thing, like, they talked about, like, going home and being just like there, and it goes to this day. It's like post-traumatic stress, right? It's like, you're not the same human being at all. How could you go experience that and then come back and be like you guys see Hurt Locker? You guys see that movie? Jeremy Renner. He's like
I don't think so.
I think I've seen parts of it.
Anyways, there's he's in, like, it would be like Afghanistan. He's a bomb diffuser, and and he goes back, and there's a scene where he's in the grocery store and he's looking at all the cereal, and it's like, it's just a perfect, like, sentiment of, like, how could you do anything else? How could you be anything different? Because, like, and it's like with Schofield, how could you go back? Oh, here's home, but I'm gonna go back and could die at any point, you know. I have this family here now, but
I think
it's just
I think
just loved it.
In Daredevil, the Punisher kind of has a line where he talks about that, where he's like, I was over there for so long and I was fighting and doing all these things, and then when I came home to see my family on the drive from the airport, I'm looking out the window, I'm seeing all these fast foods and greasy and all this just crap, that this is the stuff I fought to protect, but now I'm back and I just, like, it's not,
you don't see it,
you know,
and it's really weirdly dark, but I've heard some, like, especially modern veterans of, like, Gulf, Iraq, Afghanistan, those lovely wars, they just say, they literally will say, like, there's nothing more, like, it doesn't sound good, but, like, exciting, like, you like, once you've lived that, like, you're not gonna find an experience in life, like, you're literally at the edge of your life in those experiences 24/7. So your body's pumping, man. Like, you're not gonna find that at a desk job. It's just the complete opposite end of just boring. And I think it was the exact same in the First World War, and it translates very well into this film, I think.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
Well, like, the part when he came off he gets the ride from those guys, and he comes off, and then he's walking for a bit, and then he's trying to cross this broken bridge, and then a guy starts shooting at him, and so that was just like this, for the heart pumping, just craziness. Like, he's trying to, like, hide on the other side of it, he's going down, and, like, that was a part that I just thought was crazy, when he's just undercover there, and he's like, the guy is somewhere over there, and, like, for me watching that scene, and I think I don't know if this was the same for other people watching it, is when the first couple of shots come, I have no clue where they're coming from. You know, like, they're tinging off the bridge, so it's like anywhere over there I'm getting shot at from. But then he must have been able to figure it out, like, going down and he's getting shot at. But then just, like, the tension in that part when he's just like, boom. And then what I was saying to Aidan after the movie is, I don't think you were saying that you didn't even see.
I never saw the shooter. That whole
I know you can see him.
Yeah.
You can. He's in. It's hard. They make it hard to see, but and you can see where Schofield drops him too.
Yeah, and it was like the second or third shot. He goes, boom, and it made a different noise, and you just see kind of a shadow in the window just go down, and it was just like, but he didn't know that either, and so then he did it a couple more times,
that's the thing.
and then he pushed, and it was just that scene was like so crazy.
Yeah.
That's something though that goes to show, like with most movies, like Hollywood films, though, it's like when you're in situations like that, you're not just like it's like there's no hit markers, there's no 10 plus 100 points. It's like in real life, it's like you might have shot that guy, but like he might be playing a strategy in order for he might have just gone down or like done like the dummy helmet thing, or, like who knows, but like that, it's just not a good.
And I think that must have been his thought, was he did it, he shot a couple times, and he goes, well, this guy hasn't shot back, so I guess I have to push now. But like,
but like if I was when he goes in to clear the room, I probably would have been like, I got him, open the door, and I would have been shot in the face. But like he's like ready to clear it, and then he gets capped.
This was one thing that I have to watch it again to see what the situation was, but they had their bayonets on when they went into the German trench. But then I was thinking, I was like, I don't know if he lost it or what happened, because when he pushed into the house, I'm like, this is when you need it. If you're going in and this guy's still alive, you need to be ready for close range. Yeah. And he didn't have it on it, so I was super stressed about that.
I'll say this, which I know is true. If he was taking those long shots, kind of from down on the dock or the bridge, whatever, you would take it off, because like the bayonets that they had for the Lee Enfields were like 18 inches long, and that's very long for anything. But so like that's why they don't use bayonets nowadays, because when you put a bayonet on the end of your rifle, the end of your rifle droops, and so it affects your accuracy. So that's why I would assume he took it off. But like, I can't say for sure, but that's what I would probably assume.
I just don't remember seeing him take it off.
Exactly. That's why I was just kind of questioning.
That was the only thing. Like it makes like logistical sense that it was off. I just don't remember maybe when he was getting his gun ready there, he like pulled it off.
Yeah. Or maybe when he got in the truck with the guys. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it fell off.
I didn't remember
after the bunker blew up. Yeah. Like who knows?
I just remember having the thought of like he should put it on his gun, because if he's going in this house and this guy's alive, you should be ready to poke him. But like
one of my favorite scenes from the film that doesn't have anything really to do with history or like that kind of business is the part when he's in that, I think it's Akust, which is a real town, I think, where he finds that's where he finds the girl and the stuff.
And so this is what I wanted to talk about with the milk.
That milk too. I love that connection where he finds the milk.
He sees
the
it,
dead
and
cow.
like they pay extra attention to it. So it's like that's somehow going to be very specifically important.
Yeah. Just the way that everything is important.
No, I love that.
I love that.
I love that. I wasn't gonna say that, but I was gonna say the scenes with like when it's night and they're shooting flare. That was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And like once again, I don't think that's like anything to do with, obviously that I'm sure that there was flares in the First World War, but like I don't think that's a historically accurate part. But just gorgeous. Like it looked so good, and the pairing with the music too of it was just amazing.
I think that's the scene that they put up for cinematography.
Oh yeah, I watched the behind the scenes.
Did they win? They won, right?
They did, I think.
Okay, yeah.
There's the phone.
I watched the behind the scenes of it though, and you guys should definitely check it out.
I think I watched the behind the scenes that I could find.
Okay,
I think it was on IMDb.
But they built a model of of Akust, and they were doing light tests. They had a light going over. It was so cool.
That's awesome.
But that scene was magnificent.
That scene was crazy, and I really liked just like how as soon as a flare would go, he would notice the light, and so then he would duck down, or just would drop to the ground.
Absolutely,
so that they couldn't see, and then that was just
and then into
an incredible scene.
The river scene, which was horrific when he's crawling over the bodies. That was lovely, and then I loved when
he's just crying. You know, like
that'd be disgusting.
Oh my God.
Then I loved the transition right into that song that guy's singing. That was also just heart-wrenching.
That really just kind of is a perfect segue into this kind of this theme throughout the movie, where constantly they find themselves in these really kind of beautiful, peaceful areas where it almost seems like there are all these situations where I could just stay here, you know? Like, they find this beautiful orchard, and even though the things are cut down, it's just so peaceful and quiet. And it's like, maybe we could both just stay here. That just like that thought kind of like crosses the audience's mind where it's like, this is just a beautiful place.
Or when he finds the girl,
and then he finds
like,
the girl and
here.
she's like, just stay here. And for a second it looks like he's just like enjoying it and is maybe gonna take a load off, and then you just see he hears the bells and you just see his face change and he goes, no, I gotta go.
Oh, that brings me back because like I'm not an emotional like guy or anything, but like this scene the whole movie was like had me like, oh, I wasn't almost crying, but I was like, oh, I could feel it, like so many, and like it's just like it just leveled in like, once again, because I know about the First World War and like that, but like it's just unending sadness. Like every scene you're like, this is great, and it's like you said, it's beautiful, but there's death is all around, and you know, it's just, and then that's why it was so powerful with that scene with the singing, because it's like all these boys who are the same age as us, would have been the same age as us and younger going into this, there they go. It's like it's just it's just so sad.
Yeah, and that was the last example of that was he just dove off of a bridge for his life. And then was dragged down this river, almost drowned and killed, had to crawl over these bodies. And then, like, without saying anything, he just like, sits down.
And then the way that
camera
it went through the crowd
went through the crowd, and framed him up perfectly.
Yeah.
That was just, like, it's just these moments of serenity where he just kind of, like, you know, like, for a second, there's actual peace. Like, despite this, like, insanity, this complete awfulness, there's all these little moments of just, like, peace, and yet then this absolute will and determination, you know,
and like
to
almost,
just keep pressing on.
And that moment of hope when he's kind of sitting there and he goes, they're like, wait, what is this guy doing here? And he's like, I gotta find these guys. And they're like, that's us. And he goes, what?
Yeah.
What, the Devonshires? What they were, the Devons?
We gotta find the Devons. Where are the Devons? What?
And just running through all those guys. That scene was amazing.
Yeah.
Because it was a bit above their heads, so you could see him trying to push through all of these guys.
Yeah.
That was crazy. And then, like, going from on that hill into the trench.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And the whole movie, you're kind of, like, at the beginning, they're like, here, give this to... Sergeant Mackenzie or whatever, and they've got kind of this weird demeanor about them, and then later, the other, I don't know, captain officer, I really
that was awesome.
The guy who
Mark
took
Strong.
him, the Mark Strong guy
that was awesome.
who took him on his truck with him,
right?
Who found him after Blake died. He says, like, make sure there's a witness, because like
when you give
you're
this
setting
to him,
up
make
this
sure there's other
idea,
people
setting up this idea of Mackenzie being this like unreasonable man. And so it just, like, the tension is just so high when first those guys won't even let him in the bunker, and he just, like, he pushes through and, like, he does it, and you're just, like, so afraid that Mackenzie is going to
go through with it
go through with it, and then he does it, he calls off the attack, and what is it that Mackenzie says there or something? He says, like, sure, they bring in orders, they call it off this day, but, like, you know, tomorrow they're going to send us another telegram that says attack, and we're all going to die.
Doesn't
you know,
he
and
tell
it's
him
just
to, like, get the F out of my... I love that, too.
And it's just like...
Oh. Well, that once I wasn't there, obviously, but I assume that would have been very realistic, because those guys would have been hardcore.
Yeah. Well, and then even it was also interesting because he completed that mission, but now he's got to find Blake, you know, and like it's still
and
this
that's
extra.
Personal, I hate that
sort of mission.
Oh, I was so
and that
sad.
was so, and like this is one thing. The cast was so good.
Yeah.
You know, they had a lot of big names, but like none of them distracted. It never took me out of the movie going, oh well, that's that guy or anything. Like.
And
they were just all
none of the very
actors.
big name ones really played any sort of a major role.
No.
Like Cumberbatch was in it for like maybe 3 minutes.
He was great though. Like I loved the way he looked and his like the essence he gave, very commanding and like upper rank. And I love that. And to me like if you look at Benedict Cumberbatch, he's always looked like a guy from 1917. He's always kind of had that old classical hair and and whatnot. But so I thought he was perfect.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah, and like. I thought Richard Madden was amazing.
Yeah.
You know, just like the brief time that he's on there, he like I said
and
this
even
Aidan
beforehand
after, is like finding him and like as he's coming on the screen, you get a feel or before you even see him, you get a feel of who this man is, and you're like, this is like a good man because he finds these guys and he goes, "Where's Blake?" And the guy just says, "Well, he would have gone over with his guys."
No,
you know?
he says like knowing Blake, he would have gone over with his men, and it's like. Oh, what a good dude! But oh my gosh, and then he finds him in the
Bringing all
injured
the injured
part,
guys
like,
back.
and helping them and helping people.
Yeah.
And it's just like this kind of glowing hope, and yet also just this devastating news that has to come with it. And then Schofield gets to, like, he had his tin, like, pouch that kept the letter safe after he went into the water, because, like, the whole time he's in the water, it's like, the letter, the letter, but he put it in his tin, and he's just, like, he's looking at his family, and like you say, it ends with this sort of serenity, but just like throughout the whole movie, it's serenity, but, you know?
And to think, if it's April 1917, there's over a year left of this, there's, like, how depressing is that?
Yeah.
And,
Just terrible.
and another thing I love too is that I heard talked about was that the two main, or the one main and the other guy, were virtually unknowns essentially, right? Like they were not major actors, which I
like
loved.
the one
was
in
in Game of Thrones.
The chubbier guy was in
Okay.
Game of Thrones, and then the other guy was in Captain Fantastic, which was a movie with Viggo Mortensen, and it was a very good movie.
Yeah,
but
it was kind of about him and his family, but not a big
roles.
film by any means. Yeah, definitely.
And they're just
roles.
like kind of these two normal dudes.
Yeah.
You know? Like one
exactly.
skinny guy, one's a little chubbier,
Yeah.
and they're just these like kind of distinctive dudes.
Yeah.
And like I just appreciated that they were these normal dudes, and everyone just looked like they existed should have existed.
They were just real people.
And that's the thing people forget too, is like, especially through movies and video games, that when you're looking at only from that, and we weren't around then, so we'll never understand it, but like it was a job, and that's what video games do. All the Call of Duties do a very poor job of, like, you're a Black Ops man with it's you and two other guys attacking this mob of Russian army. It's like, and 1917 is you just see hundreds of people, which was accurate, because it's like the whole strategy of back then was, the more, if we just push a mountain of men at them, we will succeed. But they realized very fast that in the development of the machine gun, they're like, well, we have enough bullets to put through this. We have more bullets than you do men, so come at us. And then they would just walk towards it and just bring them down, and that's how it was. But another key thing to the movie, though, is they didn't under the people. They definitely brought the amount of people that would have been there, which I love that too. Yeah, because it's easy to mistake that,
Yeah, it's definitely just like you say, it's just such an experience. Whether it's the one shot being with them, walking through the whole journey with them.
It keeps you. It puts you in it, and it keeps you in it the entire time. 100%.
And then like it has every aspect of a phenomenal movie. You know, like incredible visuals. You know, and it's like got great characters, great just like story, and kind of a moral and deep themes, and it's just got that one kind of little extra thing, which is the one shot, which ties all of those things together and amplifies it by bringing you into that really intimate experience.
One other thing that I want to say is I was very surprised but very happy about was when I got my ticket, which I didn't realize they have machines now for that. I thought you had to walk up and buy them from a person still, but they just have
machines for like a long time.
Yeah, I haven't been for a while. It's been a while, but
it's been like many years.
Has it?
Yeah, since at least high school.
Well, that was the first time I had seen it, because I haven't been to Galaxy in a long time, I guess.
Yeah, we don't go to Galaxy anymore.
You go to Landmark?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Do they do it at Landmark, the machines? Or is it still like a people box office?
I think it's still people. Landmark is mostly online.
Okay.
Mostly just kind of go beforehand.
But
anyways, yeah. So when I bought my ticket, I look at the rating. I always like to see the rating because it'll usually just decipher like what kind of film this is going to be and who's going to be able to see it, right? But so it was 14A, and I was surprised, and I was like, this movie is in the First World War. It's going to be gory. It's going to be very, very gory. But at the same time, I was hoping I hope they don't dial it back, because that's injustice. Like, that would not be accurate to the First World War. And they didn't. But, and I love that, because, let's say 13 and 14-year-olds should see this movie. I think anybody who is of age to handle this movie should see this kind of stuff the way it happened. And that made me so happy that it was not rated R, but you see horrible injuries. You see dead people, like in the end when they're at the triage, like the tent.
Yeah.
You see you see
just
some
see,
stuff.
like legs
You
half
see
gone.
you see limbs, and that was the first rule. Anything that you can imagine that could happen to a human being probably happened during that. Yeah. So it's like I was very worried they would be rated R, which would. I don't think you should hide this kind of stuff. It's like I don't think the gore. I think people should experience it because that's what it was. And they shouldn't shy away from a conflict like that because
I'm surprised it wasn't rated R. If you I didn't know what the rating
Well,
was
when you think about it, though,
it's not
it's not that bad,
it's not
no.
boisterous
not
gore.
like in your face,
Yeah.
heads being sawed off by machine guns.
And I think a lot of stuff that makes it or brings up ratings too is like sexual nudity and stuff like that, which obviously isn't in the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was very happy with the rating too.
Yeah, and that's it seems like you say, since it's so historically accurate and really encapsulates the feel, it seems like a film that they could show in schools.
Yeah.
In like and I
totally.
I for me it'd be a lot more like high school classes.
Yes.
Like because
I think you should be able to handle that stuff. Though.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but like I get you don't show obviously like kids it. I understand that because it is violent, but like don't be like this is too violent. Like that's not the point.
Yeah.
It's not the point.
Especially
it's real.
at least if you're of the age that you would have been there, it is almost it's kind of important that you see like, holy crap!
But
like this is what people that were like me would have been doing. You know?
Oh yeah, we would have been. And like
100
people
years
who were
ago,
16 years old managed to they lied about their age and they got in. That happened, and 16-year-olds died in the trenches. Like that was a very common thing.
100 years ago, we would have been there.
If we were born in 1898 instead of 1998, yikes. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think
that's an interesting opinion. I didn't really think about that because but that definitely makes sense. Is that like this is important stuff?
Very important
to know, and this movie really does do it justice. And so as long as you're at the mental development stage where you can be able to handle this, where you can be able to,
I think you should be able to handle it as a human being. You should have to.
And that's the thing is like, it's a very, very heavy movie. Yeah. And so it's not like, if you're very, and if you're faint of heart, it's not gonna be like, there's kind of the two perspectives because, like, you should see this movie.
You should.
Like,
100%
not only for the fact that it is just an amazing movie, but it's important.
It depends. But yeah, I think just the caveat is everyone should see this movie. It just depends on when in your life you're going to see it, because people are different. Some people are unstable, or
This isn't a movie though that is going to make. This is not a movie that you should perceive as, even in its gore and its violence. It's not a movie you should as inappropriate or that is a really poor assumption.
It's
to
a
make.
very
like,
real.
If you're a parent and you do that, not a good thing to do. Like
parenting advice with Teagan.
Yeah, show your kids gore. Do it. But like I learned about, like, obviously I studied it before, but like I took grade 10, 11, 12 history. I remember learning about World War I in grade 10. Yeah. Like, and that's none of it was like scary to me, and I'm pretty, obviously we're similar human beings to other people, but like I think you should be exposed to this kind of stuff, especially a conflict like the First World War, because that is not long ago. That is 100 years ago, and I know that's a lot of years, and I won't even live that long, but like that's in the span of history. That is no time. Like that is absolutely no, and it shaped the world we live in today so much that you don't even think about it.
Yeah. So it's important to know.
Yeah, and kind of with that, it's like I said, it's very, very heavy, and so like it's very much like, it's not your cat. I'm not gonna turn this movie on the weekend when I'm at home just watching a movie. It's a very much like, it's
not like a Saturday morning cartoon movie.
And so like another, I think we're kind of wrapping up. Is like Teagan said, is I would definitely try and see this in the theaters.
Because it's important.
And and if you can't, like if you just can't make it, find the biggest TV you can.
Biggest TV, and like if you have to, like even if you like headphones on, I think would be way better than like quieted down while your mom's trying to do work and you gotta like that. Not a good time to watch it. Like you gotta hear loud.
Yeah, exactly. But like Teagan said, loud and big. Like that's what you want to see. And just kind of this was something that we had a recommendation from Bodhi for things that he wanted to see on the podcast. So shout out to Bodhi. Is that he wanted to kind of have us include just kind of closing remarks. Yeah. Everyone just kind of have a closing remark, and I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, because we're so bad at
we've struggled with endings, and so I don't know. Do you have
anything to say? Do you?
What are your closing remarks?
Thing
Any
is
feelings?
Like,
because I think I've got it.
Yeah, that's nice good. It's just that like we've touched on. This is a really fantastic film. Mm-hmm. Be it visually, story-wise, historically, and kind of like Teagan kind of encapsulated at the end there is that it's important. Mm-hmm. You know, it's important to learn this history, and so if it's easier for you to learn by watching this sort of a story and that gets you interested to then do more research, then absolutely go and see this movie.
And I love that because I totally understand why, like, personally I love to sit down and watch like a good old like 2-hour documentary or just like a narration and photos. Like I love that stuff, but like I understand why a lot of people just cannot grovel that because it's depressing and it is just, you know, black and white. I want to say the big thing I've been holding on to because you guys like Peter Jackson too, I know. I don't know if you guys heard, I think it was 2018, I think, because that would have been 100 years. He made a documentary called I'm just gonna look it up because I don't remember the exact title. Anyways, he made a documentary where he colorized and he fixed, because you know if you look at old camera footage, it's usually sped up and like really fuzzy and shaky, you know. Yeah. So what they made it so they like fixed the jitter and the color, and so I think it's called Age Shall Not Weary Them, but it came out in 2017. Peter Jackson directed it, and it's all about like just like humanizing the people who fought in the First World War, because you'll watch it and it's all narrated by the veterans when they were still alive. There's no World War I veterans still alive, but I would really recommend that because that was a spectacular documentary that is, you know, people can swallow it because it's easy narration, it's not violent and gory, it's the footage of the people actually there. I just want to find what it's actually called before we go, but that's really all I have to say. Amazing movie. Go see it. I don't know how much longer it'll be in theaters because I'm not sure when it came out.
I think it'll be for a little bit longer maybe.
They Shall Not Grow Old, 2018.
Okay.
That's what it's called.
There you go. Okay.
That there you go, yeah. Go watch it on, I don't think it's in theaters anymore, but amazing. And you'll get a more formal version of the First World War than you will than this film, I guess. Yeah. You know.
Kind of what I just wanted to say was that with this kind of last year, with films like Dr. Sleep, Jojo Rabbit, and like 1917 is very, for me it feels like it's been a while since I've seen movies and I come out just and knowing that it was like that was a great movie.
Yeah,
you know, like it's like
been a little while.
The past couple of years have been kind of like full of subversions and all these things that like I haven't been having as good of a time. Like obviously there's films that I enjoy, like I like the Marvel movies and all that, but like for these other tonally different, more serious or comedy or whatever it is, just movies that I'm seeing and it's like that was spectacular, you know?
Yeah. Like
coming out of like the 3 movies I mentioned, after those movies I was like that was awesome, you know? Those were good films. Mm-hmm. And so I think that we're, at least if those are any kind of indication, is we're moving in a good direction for films again, you know?
I hope so. Yeah.
One other thing I want to say, please no sequel.
Please
leave it alone. Yeah. Like don't touch it.
I'm sure.
I'm really not like expecting one.
Yeah.
But please just I shouldn't have to say this, but like just don't.
Yeah.
Just leave it be. Like no remakes. If it's 10 years from now, I don't want to see a 1943 or a 1944 would be pretty cool, but like
that would actually be the only sequel I would want to see. Is
World
like
War
maybe move into World War II and just do it the
exact same way. And but like, please just no remakes, no like just leave it, like let it be.
After this, Schofield's
bloody revenge.
He got a flamethrower and he's hanging off the side of a plane
with a machine gun in one hand. And,
Please no.
He's got a tattoo of of Blake.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
And
He's,
Blake
like,
is like
huge.
over his shoulder as a ghost, like
Yeah.
telling him stuff to do.
You
yeah.
can do it.
You
Yeah.
can do it.
Uh-oh.
Alright.
It's called 1918.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1917 2.
Yeah,
it's
blood,
just
blood money or something really dumb.
1917 2.
Yeah.
February.
And so it's actually 19,172. 1917 2.
Yeah.
Anyways, if you like this, check out more stuff. Our most recent Actar Bros, Kieran thinks is the best video we've ever made, and so
Yeah.
check that out. But anyways, most of all, check out 1917 because it's really great.
Loved it.
Yeah, hope you liked this. See you next time.